Well, I just want to say I think it's excellent what you're doing. I think one of the things, if we're going to change this world, we're going to have to change the way people perceive it. And I grew up in a multi-generational family in Arden, Delaware, in the United States. My parents were generational Illuminati. My father was 10th generation Illuminati. They joined the cult in the 1720s. What I really talk about more than just the cult, I talk more about healing modalities, and that my mother told me in 1963. Basically, the world is based on collective consciousness. And if we understand anything about consciousness, and we're all knit together in the subconscious, and we have to clean up our subconscious because we get a solipsistic, shall I say, Satanism light brainwashing in the first 6 years of life during the programmable state. The programmable state is the most important message I have personally to give to everyone on this planet. You think your conscious mind is running your life, but it's actually the 40 million bits of information that go into the morphogenic field every second that runs your life from your subconscious. Your conscious mind only donates 5, maybe 4 million bits of information to the morphogenic field. 95% of the morphogenic field's information is coming from the subconscious, and your subconscious was given to you by your culture. It's not something you decided on. The work of Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza are indispensable for understanding exactly how this world works. The Illuminati know this, and what they do is through trauma-based mind control and soft mind control is control the perception of humanity. That's why they control academia. That's why they control the media. That's why they control Hollywood. It's all about getting your perception in line with their desires. And we have to come to a place where we change the paradigm by changing ourselves and what we'll put up with in this world. The go along, get along attitude you get in the programmable state from the Illuminati ruled world is keep your head down, don't make waves, don't ask questions. And we have to totally look at ourselves and say, why am I putting up with this? Why am I allowing 800,000 children to disappear in America every year and not say a word? Okay, why am I allowing 17 million people to die of cancer when cannabis oil, Rick Simpson oil, has a 95% cancer cure rate? We have to look at ourselves as allowing this to happen. I talked to Mark Passio, and basically what he says to me is the human race is doing it to itself through ignorance of the truth, through understanding where we are, what we're incapable of, and what we have to do to change this paradigm. New energy is coming into the planet, and I think it's because the internet is waking people up to reality. It's no longer, people are not believing media, they're not following Hollywood, they're looking at the transhumanist AI agenda of the global elite, and they're scared, and they realize that They have to fight for their lives now, or else we'll all be microchip slaves. And of course, we all know about the Georgia Guidestones and the eugenics program that's going on right now through the chemtrails, GMO, Fukushima, you just name it. There's nothing but ecological and physical holocaust being perpetrated on the human race. We are definitely in some deep, deep trouble. I want to get into some of the history of the cult and simply say that when you're born into generational Satanism, and my mother said 12% of America was generational satanic. Now, we all get our enculturalization in the programmable state from 1 to 6 years old, when we only have 2 brainwave patterns and our subconscious is being built. This programmable state is the difference between walking in love or walking in a sopistic mentation. And if you have a sopistic mentation, you don't care about anyone but yourself. And this is what is being programmed into everyone through the mass media and through the culture. And we have to change the culture. We have to change the message that's getting to people every day. And that's our job through conferences like this, and to shine a light on reality. When my mother in '63 told me that 12% of America was generational satanic, I really found it hard to believe. We went to regular church, and then, of course, in the afternoon, we went to the Church of the Marquis of Hell. But when you have a society where 800,000 children are disappearing a year, like here in America, and it's not even in the media, it's not discussed at all, except among people who are researching the child trafficking and the horrific abuse that's going on from these dark occult. Can I say that we're in a insane position here? I mean, this is insanity. 17.5 million people dying of cancer because the cure is banned by the corruption of the pharmaceutical companies controlling the governments. This is genocide, and yet we're putting up with it. Why are we putting up with it? Because in our subconscious, which runs 95% of our beliefs and our actions in our adult life, we were told to go along to get along. Don't ask questions. Don't make waves. You think that, well, in my mind, I'm free of the matrix. I've done the research. I've looked into the hard and looked into and asked the hard questions. But the thing is, I, having been raised in the torture of satanic ritual abuse and the rape, I know that everyone in the Illuminati, in the elite, whether you're Rockefeller or whether you're just rank and file dark occult, like my family was, goes through satanic ritual abuse. And this ritual abuse starts in vitro with shocking of the fetus. You have to look into the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton about the programmable state. Dr. Joe Dispenza also has a book, How to Break the Habit of Being Yourself, which is excellent in trying to teach you about the physiology and the psychology of human development. The Illuminati have known since the Cataclysm Age, which 9500 BC, or roughly, we got hit by a comet and our worldwide civilization was destroyed. The dark occult took over our world the civilized world, quote, unquote, after that, because the whole human race was in a state of shock. This is, of course, the Noah's flood. A comet hit the northern ice caps and totally wrecked the planet. What I'm saying is, since that time, 13,000 years roughly, the dark occult, and they are a religion. It's called they call it the old religion, but they have been in control of society and have steered society. We have a situation where all the banking, all the academics, everything is under their control. And when the web came in, that was truly the apocalypse, which is a removing of a cover. And now there are millions of people worldwide who are awoken to the truth. Things aren't what television is saying they are. And the more people that wake up to the truth, the more people then find it easier to wake up to the truth. It's a snowball effect due to the fact that we're in a collective consciousness paradigm here. When one person wakes up and starts broadcasting into the field a different message of reality and perception, then it makes it easier for someone else, because we are energetic magnetism beings. So when we send out a particular vibration, if that vibration is picked up by other people, then there's 2 and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. And that wave, that vibration gets stronger and stronger in the field. And that's what we're seeing right now, is a rise in consciousness due to some extraterrestrial effects like the photonic belt and the fact that we're in the Mayan 5th age, the 5th sun. The Earth history is all about cycles of building and creation and devastation, and we're going into a cycle of creation and love and care. We just came out of, we're coming out of the Kali Yuga, which is just a horrible time. It's really the Iron Age. And what we need to do more than anything is continue to work together and understand our physiology, spirituality, and our consciousness. If we teach things like EFT, and we show people that they can reprogram their subconscious, they can destroy old bad habit patterns, and they can also broadcast into the field a different signal than the one that society gave them. And I talk about this on my radio show all the time, that we need to clean up the inside of each individual. And we need to also get involved and actually care for one another and not put up with the nonsense of these psychopathic elite. They all go through, whether when you're a Rockefeller, a DuPont, they all go through 6-7 years of torture, rape, and ritualistic abuse, featuring blood sacrifice, featuring drugging, featuring interdimensional beings in their presence, just the worst kind of life that anyone can imagine. It's a total horror being a child growing up in a satanic ritual abuse setting. And what it does is it warps the synaptic pathways of the brain, thereby warping the body chemistry. And people are literally tortured to not care anymore. They're made into secondary psychopaths. That's what this whole old religion Molex system is. It's about creating secondary psychopaths and destroying the humanity in people. And all I have to say is we can change this, because They are few and we are many. And if we tell people, don't be afraid, stand up for what's right, we can change this. And it's simply a matter of numbers. The more people we wake up to the fact that they need to care and they need to get involved, the more energy goes into the morphogenic field and the channel gets literally changed to a new movie, to a new broadcast, one of cooperation, not destruction. And this is my whole bag now, is I don't talk so much about the Illuminati anymore as I tell people, learn about yourself, learn about self-empowerment, learn about natural law, and get involved. Find a small piece of the problem that fits your personality and make that your cause, okay? Now, I have a lot of general knowledge about everything that's going on, but I say to people, whether it's vaccination, whether it's cancer, cure suppression, or whatever it is, find an issue and start to help the world to change the paradigm on that issue.
Jay, thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom flame with us today. Sunny afternoon in Westminster, London, and we're delighted to be sharing spirit with you. There are a few minutes for the bench or to raise questions. Chief Counsel, Justices, Your Grace, Commissioners. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes to ask questions of Jay.
Just a question in relation to the subconscious. In your research, have you found that some people are more attuned to the subconscious than others, or is it a characteristic or a part of the mind that we all have access to in equal measure?
What I found is the old religion of Molech. They put their children through this satanic ritual abuse to end up with an adult who is basically in the R complex of the brain, okay? Now, I'm not answering your question basically. I believe we all have the same abilities naturally to use EFT, emotional freedom technique, or Psyche, and reprogram, get into our subconscious and do whatever shadow work we want to do there to clean up bad habits and belief patterns. We all have the same, but the old religion, these people are physiologically, emotionally, and spiritually damaged. Once you go cult, these people get an etheric entity attached to them for life from the fourth dimension. This is an invasion of the human race from the dimension right next to ours. When we were 5 years old as children, we spoke openly about the multiple dimensions because they were conjuring things that were not of this world in front of us children and doing these rituals. And I just want to say that as normal people, the 90% of the human race, we have 5% conscious mind, 95% subconscious. So if you're not programming your subconscious and it runs 95% of your life, I think you need to take a look at how you can program it for what you want to manifest. And when it comes to the Illuminati, they are in the R complex. They are in the flight or fight modality their entire lives. So the programming of the subconscious in the first 6 years of life is paramount to them because it's what they do. It's who they are. They are not in the limbic system. They are not in the neocortex. They're not creative thinkers. That's why you find that these people are so one-dimensional and shallow. they really are not functioning well because they have permanent brain damage.
You answered my second question before I asked it, and that is there more than one dimension? Now I've moved to the third question. I have always been worried of moving into another dimension, not so much to be in the other dimension to see things that one can't see in the conscious life, but the ability to get back. And my concern is if you move into another dimension fully, you might not be able to get back.
One of the things I noticed when they destroyed my brother John, they literally took parts of his consciousness and threw it in a other dimensional prison, and he was never the same again. And the things that they can do, we all know that they're 40 years ahead technologically. The suffering of humanity could end tomorrow. They have Tesla technology that can do everything. Anti-grav technology, free energy technology, they have it all. And we have to demand that these corrupt Illuminati that control our governments are removed from office. I'm not a great believer in the concept of government. I'm a great believer in the first 6 years of life, you train a child to be a Gnostic, a Telestai. You aim the child to the higher philosophies, to the common good. If you do not do that in the first 6 years, you produce people who are morally and spiritually bankrupt. And this is the problem that we're having. Generation after generation, we put our children through this soft mind control of go along to get along. We have to change this by actually raising our children in natural law, in higher philosophy.
May I please connect this to Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2031? The message that I've taken from what you're saying is that the 1% are successful because they've beaten empathy out of the 99%. And it sounds to me like much of what you say will be best implemented at the village level, which is to say the reduction of federal and global governments and a return to secessionist movements and other forms of independence where kinship is restored as the common currency. Not that I'm leading you, but I want you to articulate that to a certain extent.
Well, that's exactly what I believe. I believe that we've gotten these corporate structures and these governmental structures that are so far removed from the people that it's just totally ridiculous. We need to pare down and go local. I mean, it's just like when you buy food. You buy local to support your local farmers. And we need to do that. We have the power. It's 90% of us against 10% of them. Now, they built this system to be on top, but the rank and file Illuminati that I grew up with, basically, this is something people have to understand about the dark occult. 11% of America is Christians who go to church and are dedicated, and they go to church 2 or 3 times a week, and they make up 11% of the population. Their religion came 2,000 years ago from the Middle East. The old religion of Molech, which is mind control, war, human sacrifice, okay, came from the Middle East 3,000 years ago, not 2,000 years ago, and is in America, and basically is about 12% of the population. So what I'm saying is, you say, I find these numbers of 40 million dark occult to be hard to believe. But what I'm saying to you is, you've got 40 million Christians. Where did they come from? The Middle East 2,000 years ago. Where you need to look at history, and David Icke has written some great books about history of the world and stuff, like The Biggest Secret, and you can read them and get an overview of how these people came out of the Middle East. They went to Venice. They went to northern France. They took England over. And basically, they've been running the show worldwide for quite a while now.
You just said that the old religion that we spoke about did come from the Middle East. So also Christianity came from the Middle East. Not only Christianity, but also Islam and Judaism. Whereas in the Middle East, we were able to defeat what you would describe old religion, satanic cults and the like. We hardly hear of them. We still hear of 12% of the American population in the grip of those satanic groups and cults. Is it, in your opinion, also the failure of family life, the weakness of family life within the Western culture? Who is to blame? I mean, when you say we must or we need to encounter, not only encounter, but overcome those who are in the minority, and we are in the majority. I strongly believe it's basically the weakness of people in their faith traditions that causes evil to lead in the world. When people are totally committed to Almighty God and to the not, I won't speak of the institution. I'm not talking about the institution of the church, though I am a person within a church institution. I strongly believe when people are totally committed to this, regardless of how small they are in number, how limited in their means, people sitting here, we very few compared to 7.5 billion people in the world, and we are trying to attempt to help change the world. I continue to think of the early disciples of Jesus Christ. Most of them kind of betrayed him and distanced themselves from him when he was on the cross, and yet when they were freed from fear and from doubt and were encouraged by the power of the Holy Spirit, small in number, hardly any means compared to what the church in the world has today, they managed to change the course of human history. Today, when I look at us Christians, and I don't want to speak about Muslims or Jews or Hindus, all respect to all those people, I hold the church for responsible for failing to stand to what it believes in, not the doctrine, but what believes in him, as I strongly believe, who rose from the dead and freed us from I don't want to go into this, but freed us from fear, freed us from doubt. And he came, as he said, I came that you may have life and enjoy it abundantly. Today, whether it is in the Middle East or in America, anywhere in the world, people hardly enjoy life. The blame is not on faith traditions only, but on the people who claim to be this or that. Thank you for raising the issue, and I would love to hear your comments. Why in Middle Eastern society this business of satanic cults is not found at all, certainly not welcomed. If we discover that there are some, I don't know of any.
Well, I can simply say that I was visiting my mother and at her apartment back in the mid-'80s, and Benjamin Netanyahu was featured on a noonday television presentation. And I said to my mother, what's he doing in America? And she said to me, they are training him. Okay? Philadelphia is the spiritual capital of the Illuminati, okay? And if you look at the history of Benjamin Netanyahu, you see a dark occultist. You don't see a Jew. And we can go into, you can just tear people apart when it comes to religion and belief systems. I mean, between the Talmud Jews and the Quran and everything. I mean, if you really jump in there, you'll see a lot of corruption. But my commitment to the divine source and to, I mean, personally to Christ is 100%, where I do not back down on anything because he didn't back down on anything. And people live in fear. And I keep telling people, you are an eternal being. What are you afraid of? I mean, if you really have a commitment to God, if you really have a commitment to source, and you know through meditation and prayer that, hey, I'm not alone in this, I've got some big backup, you've got some strength. I mean, we have been in cultural brainwash by this culture to go along to get along. And people have been told, oh, there's nothing after this. When you die, that's all there is. Yet Russian physicists have measured a human being on a table that expired, and 30 grams of weight, their spirit goes somewhere. They lose 30 grams of weight. That's the person's consciousness. That's their spirit. With Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Bruce Lipton, things that the dark occult have kept knowledge of self for 13,000 years about who we are physiologically, how we relate to the divine field, the morphogenic field. All this information is pouring out onto the web. People are waking up. God is rebuilding his church. It's coming through the spirit, one person to another. It's not coming through organizations or, you know what I'm talking about. There's a new spirit in the world today of cooperation and of care, and it's coming from God. And I just want to say every spiritual system out there said that when it really gets bad, God's going to pour his spirit out upon the world. And that's what we're seeing, because most people are perceiving that things are not right here. And when you get out of the matrix of mind control and perceive reality and aren't afraid to know the truth, your broadcast into the field is 100-fold more powerful than someone who's under mind control, because they're in the R complex. They're not in the neocortex. They're not in the limbic system. And you have to study Joe Dispenza's work, because when we get our thoughts and our feelings aligned, then we can move the morphogenic field any way we want. I mean, you can look at Dr. Emoto. He got 20% reduction in the pollution of a Japanese lake by having 150 people around the lake, blessing the lake. Before and after samples of the water, there was a 20% reduction. We are quantum capable beings. We can change the actual physical reality of this place. The Illuminati do not want us knowing that, as Jesus Christ said, know ye not that you are gods? And I look at this place, this is God's school. This is where you decide between ultimate good and ultimate evil. Take your pick.
Jay, thank you for that. I'm going to, Justice Cleverly has a question.
Thank you very much, sir. We were blessed earlier with the testimony of Mr. Bernard, and he referred to the necessity for there to be a bridge between those who are lost and this place that you're discussing that we wish to find. And so I humbly ask you to if you can, perhaps help the tribunal with how we can light that bridge, how we can build that bridge, how we can show that bridge. Because as I've said at the beginning, this is not a court of revenge or a court of conversation. It's going to be a court of action and a call to action. So we need practical measures, and I'd be privileged if you could elucidate further.
Well, for me, you know, the study of consciousness, because my mother made it clear to me that we are in a collective consciousness reality. And if you look at Stephen Hawking, he said the universe is mental. If you look at so many different, and this is what I have to say, when you become you look into many different sciences, when you look into many different religions, you pick up a little piece of truth, and you open up your mind more and more to the spirit of what I call the all truth. God does not bargain with evil. God does not compromise with evil. I mean, I'm not saying that we should go out vindictively and hang all these people who are involved in the old religion of Molech. There's many people that have not gone through what I've gone through personally that believe that these people who are secondary psychopaths should be drawn and quartered. I don't believe that at all. I believe, having rebuilt my psychology and my consciousness, that I'm offering and telling people who are in cult, who are not way up on the totem pole, so to speak, that really those people at the very top are genetically damaged due to inbreeding. They're a whole nother issue. But the secondary psychopaths like myself, they can be healed through shamanic practices, through prayer, proper diet, education, subconscious energy psychology like EFT or Psyche. They can be healed through Carillion photography. We can see if they're still possessed by some energy pattern or thought pattern that's not of this world. There are things available in this world today, scientifically, with brain mapping and everything. We can really take a leap and bound to the future and heal our planet and one another. And I say to the secondary psychopaths and the Illuminati, I don't want to kill you, I want to heal you. But if you persist in this genocide, if you persist in trying to destroy mankind, I'm going to stand up and you're going to see some force from me, because I'm not going to disgrace my life and allow you any more longer to do the horrible things you're doing. And we're talking about genocide here, where we are actually witnessing incredible acts of genocide. And it's time now to stand up. And America, you know, there's been a mini revolution here, and I think it's going to continue. And a lot of convulsions here in America. But I have to say that I don't want to see a reverse genocide. I want the dark occult people healed, because you have to understand, they started out in vitro being electroshocked. And if you had a respect for the programmable state and for the first 6 years of brain development and chemical development of the human being, you would understand that these people had their lives stolen from them because of this religion of torture.
Jay, I think it's important if you're comfortable with it, because I'm very familiar with your story. I think that it might serve purpose here. for the bench, if you wouldn't mind giving your testimony for 3 or 4 minutes on the turning point. You yourself were set up for sacrifice as a youngster. Are you happy to speak to that event for a few minutes, just so that that is on the record, and how that event was brought to a rapid end just before the event occurred? I think that a hyperdimensional element will also answer some very important questions. Thank you. Please proceed.
Well, when I was in first grade, they raped my best friend, Brandon Ploner, so horrifically he went septic and died. I went to some Christians down the street because in Arden, Delaware, they kept 10% of the people in the Illuminati village non-cult so the people could practice their personas on the non-cult residents of Arden. I went to these Christians, they went to the police. The police said, we know what's going on in Arden, Delaware, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is 1963. My father took me to the Marquis of Hell Church a couple days after the Christians went to the police. It was a big issue in Arden amongst the cultists. So I'm sitting in a chair underneath the candlelight dinner theater where the Church of the Marquis of Hell is, or was. And basically I'm sitting in a chair, and Buzz Ware and my father are 10 feet away from me. And my father is saying to Buzz Ware, let's just kill him and throw him in the woods. And I was pretty much disgusted by them because I realized I wasn't going to get any help from the police. But a voice came to me in my head and said, look behind you. And I said, nah, I'm not cooperating with God. I'm not cooperating with the devil. I'm sick of this place. You're all whack. I'm fed up. That was my attitude at 7 years old. But behind me, I could feel two entities. And my father and Buzz Ware turned and looked at me, and they were in shock. And they said, Buzz said to my father, we can't kill this one. And so they couldn't kill me because I got divine intervention. But anyone who makes a commitment like I did, at 5 years old, I'm standing up amongst a room full of axe murderers, telling them what they're doing is wrong and that they'll never get away with it. I was saying, what are you, going against God and nature? What are you, out of your mind? You can't destroy the Creator. And I know I'm a freak, but, you know, that's the truth, and that's what happened. But I spent 45 years of my life as a mind control victim, because after that incident of being spared by dimensional intervention, they took me to the CIA psychologists who monitored all the monarchs in the Arden area and northern Wilmington, the DuPont Corporation's little fiefdom. And basically, they electroshocked me until I didn't even know what my name was. And I've always had petit mal epilepsy ever since then. That's why at times you see I have trouble talking. Neurologically, you know, I got damaged really good. I just want to say, though, that after they shocked me and I didn't even know my name, they put me through 4 months of slave programming, and basically until I was like 46 years old, 47 years old, I accidentally got triggered. My memories started coming back. I was furious at my life being a lie and that I was the opposite of who I really was. Amazing what they can do with mind control. It's amazing. And all I can say is it's real. Fritz Springmeier is an author who has written a book, How to Create an Undetectable Mind Control Slave. It's on the web for free. Fritz Springmeier talks about the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati and has written a book about it. And the information on the web, you have to use critical thinking. There's a lot of people out there. They're limited hangouts. They'll tell you 60% truth, 40% lies. You have to learn critical thinking. And we're going to win this. Believe me, we're going to win this. I just want to say to everyone that what you're doing by getting involved is changing the paradigm. When you tell somebody the truth, they cannot unhear it. And that's the way this thing's going to turn, because you cannot unhear the truth, and the truth has a vibration that's 10 times more powerful than a lie.
We are the power behind the ITNJ. Add your voice. Sign the treaty.